From Storm Tracker 6, this is Forecast First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Yesterday's severe storms in mid-Michigan left a swath of damage across the region, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of the damage once the sun comes up this morning. Now, we haven't had much light around mid-Michigan. That's because the power's out. Plenty of spots are dealing with major power outages. About little less than 200,000 people, in fact, are without power this morning. We're going to get the latest info on this coming up in the forecast as 6 News This Morning continues.
WLNS is here for you with 6 News This Morning.
Good morning, Mid-Michigan, and thanks for joining us. And we're here for you now with this morning's top stories. It is currently August 25th, and Jorma has the morning off. Now, much of Mid-Michigan is in the dark cleaning up this morning, and that's after a huge storm swept through the area last night. The thunder, lightning, and 80-mile-an-hour winds weren't even the worst of it. The Lansing Police Department is actually confirming one Lansing resident has died. And that's where we find Ray Sherman. She's joining us now live with the start of our team coverage. Ray, what can you tell us?
Yes, good morning, Kira. That is right. The Lansing Police Department did confirm one person has died due to a tree collapsing on the building right behind me on the 1600 block of Martin Street. Now, this is one of the debris that we see, but this is not as big as the tree behind us. My photographer will zoom up on the house, on the tree damage, on what is going on behind me. Now, when we arrived, the Lansing Fire Department was on the scene. When we showed up this morning, they confirmed they rescued one resident that was taken to Sparrow Hospital, and it's now confirmed that that was the person that was deceased. Now, there is the back of the house is still intact, so it is just the front that did collapse, but it was obviously deadly. Now, there probably will be more coverages to be had as far as the storm damage is concerned, and Katie will keep you updated on the weather today. Here for now in Lansing, Ray Sherman, 6 News.
All right, Ray, we appreciate it. And over in Holt, last night's destruction in the storm did more than just bring down tree limbs. 6 News anchor Siobhan Klepfer was in Holt earlier last night and shows us that damage.
Good morning. I'm on the 2400 block of Eifert Road in Holt right now, where it wasn't just a tree limb that fell last night in the destructive storm. It was an entire tree, and a very large one at that. You can see the scale of it by me standing right here. To give you an idea, and I know it's dark, this tree is taller than a house on its side. And we were actually, our crew was on the way to another location where we heard about some damage from the storm when we came across this, and obviously now we're going to have to find a different route around.
This is pretty stunning. It's a huge monster tree, and it came down when all the rain and the wind was blowing really hard. I heard a thud, but I wasn't sure, and I looked out, and I wasn't going to come out at that time.
While we were on the scene, we saw an ambulance come up on the other side of this tree, also, of course, forced to turn around because it is blocking both lanes of traffic right now, and this will take a while to get this tree moved. But a good reminder to drivers this morning, give yourself some extra time before you head out on the road, because you never know what you're going to come across after the storm last night. If you were awake last night during the height of the storm, it was impossible for you to miss the lightning show taking place. Close to 4,000 lightning strikes every 15 minutes. We're talking around 9-10 p.m. last night. Unfortunately, this home in Holt was hit by lightning, and a fire started because of it. That's according to Ingham County Emergency Management. I am on the corner of Witherspoon Way and Runnymede Drive. Some debris on the ground. And if you're looking all the way up to the top, you can see where that strike happened, where the fire was contained. No word this morning on the extent of the damage, but a good reminder this morning that just because you're at home and you're watching the storm from the comfort of your home inside where you're trying to be safe doesn't mean that you should be letting your guard down, and you should still be paying attention. Here for you in Holt, Siobhan Klepfer, 6 News.
And the destruction doesn't stop there. Meanwhile, over in Eaton County, the storm damage was so severe that officials declared a local state of emergency. They're asking people to stay off the roads if possible and to be very careful if you do go out. 6 News meteorologist Kendall Wilson was in Eaton County earlier and shows us the aftermath.
Well, it was a pretty wild and rough night of severe weather that we saw across mid-Michigan. I am here in Eaton County, specifically in the city of Dimondale, which only saw severe thunderstorm warnings, but some pretty significant wind gusts embedded within that severe thunderstorm. You can see the kind of damage that the winds from that thunderstorm actually caused. At a certain point in time, we had radar estimated wind speeds of above 100 miles per hour. And of course, you can see the kind of damage that those wind speeds do. Knock down some pretty large trees and several power lines as well. As of midnight, we had 28,000 customers without power just in Eaton County alone. And it is likely that these power outages are going to last for a few days, as we still have over 200,000 customers across mid-Michigan being left of the dark as of this morning. I will mention that we did see a couple of tornado sirens going off in Eaton County. Tornado sirens can go off for multiple reasons. In this case, it was because of those severe damaging wind gusts that we saw in the area, just indicating that anyone in that county should take shelter, and you can see the reason why. Also, at one point in time, 911 dispatch in Eaton County was overwhelmed with the amount of calls that they were getting in just reporting this kind of damage. So much so that they had to go on social media and tell people to stop calling in unless it was an emergency, an actual emergency here. I do think that we are going to see more storm reports of damages like this, including large trees being down, knocking down power lines, and roofs of shingles off of house being blown around. Even though no tornado warning was issued in Eaton County, you can see some pretty significant signs of some straight line wind damage. Here for you in Dimondale, Kendall Wilson, 6 News.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Kendall. Well, storm damage wasn't limited to mid-Michigan either. There are reports of a possible tornado that touched down near Grand Rapids as well. The National Weather Service says a train spotter reported a possible tornado in the Belmont area just north of Grand Rapids. Several large trees were blocking roads and at least one building was heavily damaged.
Just be careful if you're going to go up on your roof. Homeowners insurance is for that. Your insurance company, if you have homeowners insurance, they're there to indemnify you. Hire a professional tree service. Make sure, I would not pay anybody up front. Have them invoice you. Let them go take care of it. Use safety. Safety is number one.
And we do have some tragic news to report. Authorities near Grand Rapids say the weather is to blame for at least 3 deaths. They say a car hydroplaned on the wet road, sending one car crashing into another. And the crash near Cedar Springs killed a woman and 2 children. They say the woman was in her 30s and the kids were just 1 and 3 years old.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Looking out on our Hillsdale camera, you won't see any debris on those roadways, but there are problems with debris elsewhere, especially where we saw the strongest winds yesterday. Looking at our traffic tracker, you see a couple of pops of purple. That's where we have road closures. Northbound and southbound M100 there between Grand Ledge and Potterville now shut down. And when you head over farther towards the east, in Williamston, when you go near that area along I-96, we have that closed for east and westbound. And this doesn't even cover the surface streets, which are littered with debris this morning. So you might run into even more road closures when you go outside. Then insult to injury happens and we have fog. So if you couldn't see the debris before, you really aren't seeing it now. We have visibility down to 1.5 miles in Mason, 2.5 miles there in Jackson and in Ionia. And it looks like it'll be even worse when you get to those low-lying areas. We're going to be seeing some storm reports continuing to come in this morning. All we know for sure is that we had reports of cars and semis flipped over on I-96 towards Williamston. That's where we had that possible tornado, still listed as possible because the National Weather Service hasn't sent a survey team out yet. They'll be there today, and that's when we're going to be seeing if it's confirmed as a tornado, and we'll get a ranking for it. Either way, though, the debris is out there, and please be careful when you're trying to pick things up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying, well, emergency crews are saying just stay home if you can.
Exactly.
Work from home. I mean, we're in the age of after COVID, where that's a possibility now.
It's a possibility. Hopefully some employers will be lenient with that and let you do it.
Exactly. All right, Katie, we appreciate it. Well, coming up, 6 News digital reporter Sienna Reddy will be here for you with more on the storm damage and the images that we received from viewers and also our 6 News crews that were out on the scene. We'll have those details and more. The time now is 6:09. Thanks for watching 6 News this morning.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Weather on the Sixes, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Plenty of people in mid-Michigan are waking up without power and with storm damage after the system that rolled through yesterday. We're looking back at the archived Doppler radar data, and this shows us what the system did as it moved through. Now you see it started towards our northwest in Grand Rapids and then just moved to the southeast. But there's one particular area that I was focused on last night, and so were a lot of people, because it actually produced a possible tornado in our area. Now you'll hear me say possible tornado throughout the morning. We'll be seeing some damage in this area, but until the National Weather Service sends a survey crew out, we won't have confirmation if it was a tornado. But here are some hints from the radar that make me lean towards the tornadic side of things. First off, that little spin up that you see right over Williamston. Two cells sort of collided, and it's a lot like a hernia. It got pinched off, and that's what created a quick amount of spin. We can see that too on our wind velocity data. This looks like a mess, but there's only one frame that we need to see, and that's this one at 9:34. This came in, and you see a red dot and a blue dot. Where they meet is where that rotation is. The red indicates winds going away from the radar. The blue, winds going towards the radar, and that causes shear, spin, and that's an indication of where a tornado could be. Now we've had plenty of reports of damage coming in from Williamston, including multiple cars that were along I-96 that were flipped. We had multiple semis as well that were flipped over, and a roof collapsed on a building. Both of these captioned with possible tornado. Again, until we get that survey crew out today, that's when they're going to either confirm that it was a tornado or change the diagnosis. Now looking at other spots, we had winds gust over 70 miles per hour there in Clinton County, then got a 70-mile-an-hour report in Charlotte. Both of those wind gusts are about the same as the winds you'd see in an EF0 tornado. So whether it was spinning or if it was straight line, it still caused a whole lot of damage. And we're going to get even more damage reports here coming in for this morning. We had these storms roll through overnight, so we didn't really get to see the damage. Once the sun comes up, though, that's when we'll be able to get more of those reports in. Now, looking at our power outage tracker, about 30% of Michiganders in mid-Michigan aren't going to be waking up with power this morning. The worst of it is over towards Eaton County, Ionia, Ingham, down towards Jackson, and over towards Livingston counties, also seeing significantly higher power outages. But some spots, like over towards Calhoun and South, didn't really see any power outages. That's because the worst of the storm produced damage like this in the counties where we saw those power outages. Now, you're going to be seeing tree limbs down on roadways this morning, caused a lot of problems on our commute, and it's going to continue to cause issues for the morning drive. Zooming in, going from Grand Ledge down towards Potterville, that's where we're seeing a road close. That's Road 100. That's going to be another issue over towards Williamston. We're going to be seeing that closed road along 96. Then satellite and radar shows the storm's gone, so we won't have any additional damage. But if you're going to pick up the damage in your yard, know that you'll have decent temperatures for it. We'll be at 81 degrees today. Tomorrow, cooling down even further to 74. And it looks like we're going to hold off on the rain, just with some clouds and maybe a light sprinkle. 6-day forecast shows we'll stay in the 70s for next week, and we'll stay fairly dry too, with only a chance for showers there on Tuesday. I've been talking about the storms in the studio, but we have 6 News reporter Ray Sherman out in the field. Ray, what are you seeing this morning?
Yeah, that's good right there. Good morning, Michigan. I am standing outside of a house where one person was found dead this morning. And stay tuned on 6 News this morning for more storm coverage and more continued coverage of the weather today. Coming up.
Good morning, Mid-Michigan. We crossed our fingers and tried to cross our toes to keep the storms away for the opening night of the high school football season. But as many of you know, Mother Nature won the battle. It put a bit of a damper, too, on the opening night of the Dean Trailways 5th quarter. And now we have almost a dozen games that are slated to resume later today. Our big game, a.k.a. the Cedar Street rivalry between Holt and Mason, was postponed early in the 2nd quarter with Mason up 21-7. And today they will head back out onto the field to resume the game at 5 p.m. As for the crosstown showdown at DeWitt between the Panthers and Hazlitt, they called this game in the 3rd quarter due to lightning with the Vikings up 10-7. This game will resume at 7 p.m. The other games in our area that were postponed as well and moved to today are Lansing Catholic at Waverly, Eaton Rapids at Owasso, and Williamston at Zeeland West. Lansing Everett and Lansing Sexton had to also postpone their game along with Three Rivers and Charlotte. Both are undecided at this point what time they will resume their games today. As soon as we know, though, we will let you know, of course, so be sure to stay with 6 Sports because we also have a whole new slate of games that are going to be taking place tonight. And of course, try for round 2 of the Dean Trailways 5th quarter. Have a fantastic Friday.
From Storm Tracker 6, this is Forecast First, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance. Simple human sense.
Our 4 cameras are now down to 3 because in St. John's the power's out, and a lot of other spots are dealing with that problem too. Even looking on our Lansing camera, off in the distance, the street lights aren't on. So we're going to be tracking out a lot of power outages here for today. Looks like roughly 30% of mid-Michigan is without power. And with the storms that move through, it's going to make it difficult with that damage to get the power back on. We're going to be bringing you the latest updates on the storm from yesterday and how it's going to affect your day today coming up as 6 News This Morning continues.
WLNS is here for you with 6 News This Morning.
Good morning in Michigan. It's Friday, August 25th. I'm Kiera Lake and Droma has the morning off. We're here for you now with this morning's top stories. Well, much of mid-Michigan is in the dark and cleaning up this morning, and that's after a huge storm swept through the area last night. The thunder, lightning, and 80-mile-an-hour winds weren't even the worst of it. The Lansing Police Department has confirmed that 1 Lansing resident has died. And that's where we find 6 News reporter Ray Sherman joining us now live as we start our team coverage this morning. Ray, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Kiera. Yes, I am live on scene right now where 1 person was found dead in a collapsed structure behind me, which was a residential home on the 1600 block of Martin Street in Lansing. Now I have a small piece of debris right now from the storm in my hand. As you take a look behind me, you will see a large tree that did fall on the roof of a house. Now this happened last night around 10:20 p.m. when we arrived at the scene this morning to get footage. The Lansing Fire Department was here and they confirmed they rescued 1 resident that was taken to Sparrow, which is now confirmed to be the resident that died. Now this information is confirmed by the Lansing Police Department. We will have continued coverage for you on 6 News, so stay updated on 6 News this morning, on our website and on our app. Here's now in Lansing, Ray Sherman, 6 News.
Ray, thank you so much. Well, we continue our coverage because we're hearing just how bad things got as last night's lightning show and heavy winds tore across mid-Michigan. 6 News Chief Meteorologist David Young is here for you now to explain.
Weather raking across mid-Michigan tonight, in particular from Williamston to Weberville. Right now I'm located around M52 and 96, which was hit extremely hard by severe weather. We've got a special guest, Rob Dale with Emergency Management. Rob, a former TV6 meteorologist, so you're really up on the weather side of things. Tell me what was going on this evening as these storms began to make their way through Lansing.
Yeah, so watching the storms approach, they look pretty bad from the get-go. We had the report of the tornado near Grand Rapids, so we were on edge. We were ready and prepared for it. So as soon as the winds looked like they were going to be near tornado strength, even though we didn't have a tornado warning, we sounded the sirens. The Weather Service estimated that 80-mile-per-hour winds were coming, which, to be honest, is stronger than some of the tornadoes we have. So we activated our outdoor warning sirens. Wasn't for a tornado, but the impact is the same. And then a few minutes in, as we saw the storm continuing on, it moved into the Williamston area. We saw signs of a tornado. We activated the sirens just in this part of the county since it had already passed Lansing. So good impacts all around.
Describe to me some of the kind of damage that you've been seeing out surveying tonight.
Well, thankfully we're in a rural area, so there weren't a lot of homes, but the homes were hit. We did see some homes that were damaged. We saw barns that were destroyed, nothing left at all. So thankfully we didn't see any houses. We did have some roof collapse on an assisted living center, but everyone was fine inside, so no injuries to anyone that was in a home or business.
Any significant fires from lightning strikes tonight?
Right, we had at least 1 lightning strike caused fire in Holt. Well, we may have had another one in Lansing Township as well. So if you were out, you saw this an intense amount of lightning tonight, which is, again, fairly rare for us to see. So it's not shocking that not only home fires, but we had a lot of power line, a lot of transformer issues that weren't necessarily wind, but from the lightning itself.
You know, when I was pulling up, they were just flipping this semi back over that was blown over by the wind. Any reports of injuries from the winds flipping cars and semis over tonight?
Yeah, we had multiple cars and trucks flipped over on I-96 in between here at M52 and the Williamston Road exit, so some of those did have injuries involved. You know, it's a tough situation. They were in rain. This wasn't like the classic funnel we see with Dorothy. This was embedded inside the storm, so there was really nothing to see. It went from rain to tornado, back to rain, and we did have some injuries on 96 as a result.
Hoping they're okay. Rob, appreciate that. Stay safe out there tonight. Again, the storm's hitting hardest across central mid-Michigan from Lansing right through Williamston and into Livingston County as well. Here at M52 and 96, meteorologist David Young, 6 News.
And if you are heading out this morning, you will see plenty of downed trees and debris, and that's to blame for knocking down power lines, which has left hundreds of thousands of Michiganders in the dark. Now take a look at your screen right now. As of 6:30 this morning, Consumers Energy said more than 180,000 customers were without power. DTE Energy, which serves part of Ingham and Livingston counties, had nearly 190,000. And back here in Lansing, the Board of Water and Light had almost 30,000 customers in the dark. We would also like to mention that there will be no school today for all of Potterville Public Schools. And the heavy rain and wind made it difficult for people on the roads to get to their destinations late last night, and damage left some cars waiting for hours. Josh Sanchez is here for you now with a look at that traffic.
While the storm may be over, there's still a lot of cleanup left on both the highways as well as on county roads. The storm has left important roads like I-96 impassable. Ingham County officials tell me that the interstate is littered with downed trees, car and semi-wrecks. At one point on Williamston Road, traffic was being crossed over to help ease the line of cars at a standstill. The storm has left behind both tied up roads and injuries along the roadway.
We're still getting a count on the number of trucks. We did have a lot of trucks and cars that were overturned. We did have injuries in those cars and several of them. Traffic's been hard everywhere just because everyone's taking side streets, and not all those side streets are passable, especially for trucks. So they're backing things up. It was actually a truck here that was flipped over outside the Aldi.
County officials tell me that they are going to work with the National Weather Service during the daylight hours to better understand the damage that was left behind after the storm to see if it classifies as a tornado. Here for you in Weberville, Josh Sanchez, 6 News.